I'm Pastor Evans. You're listening to What I Hear. There are 24 hours in a day. Have you ever gotten to about the midpoint of a day and wanted it to just start over? Sometimes you're not having the best day ever. But guess what? Tomorrow comes and you can start over. Jonathan McReynolds did a song called Better. And that's the concept. Today might not be great, but tomorrow can be better.
But tomorrow just do better, better, better.
So why this song? Because I think there's a message of hope in this song that we need to hear today. You know what? Today might not be great, but in a few hours, tomorrow comes, and we can do better tomorrow. So in the first couple of lines of the song, the writer reaffirms the words of 1 Corinthians 10:13, that temptation is common. He says there's a misconception that temptation won't affect us, right? So why would you think that you wouldn't be affected by temptation? We're all affected by things. We all have our vices. We all have our issues, right? But the songwriter says there's a misconception that temptation won't affect us. I think that comes from those over spiritual people who tell you that because you know Christ and because you have accepted Christ, that now all those things are gone. All the things that used to bother you, all the things that used to give you pause, all the things that used to tempt you to move away from God, you shouldn't be affected by. And I think that can be discouraging. But here the writer says that's a misconception. Temptation will affect us. But the issue is you can't let it get in your heart, because that's when you fall, right? So the first few lines of the song there encourage us, and that's why we picked the song, because it's a message of hope. Second theme is that we should guard our hearts. The Bible tells us from the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. So we should be mindful of what we allow to affect our hearts. The lyric says, if I let temptation get in my heart, then I will fall. So if we guard our hearts from the things that are going to take us down, then we can be more hopeful in our words, more hopeful in our actions, and more hopeful in the things that we choose to get involved in. We have to guard our hearts. Next, we have to remember that just because today didn't go great, just because today we may have fallen into the things that tempt us, doesn't mean that we can't do better tomorrow, right? So the song says, we all have fallen, but we can't stay on the ground, because after a while, you'll start thinking that recovery is not an option, right? So you gotta get up. Even if you don't feel like getting up, you have to get up, right? So because if you just stay down, then you think that's where you're supposed to be, and that's not the case. The songwriter says that we're supposed to get up because tomorrow we can do better. Now, you're not going to be able to undo things. We want to be able to take an eraser and erase the things that we did wrong, but we're not going to be able to undo things. But because of grace, we get a clean slate every day. The Bible also tells us that each day that we wake up, we get a new portion of mercy. We get a new serving of grace. One of the most encouraging things in the song is the second part of the chorus. The words say, you'll know that all is forgiven because he'll help you to do better. It's a pretty simple lyric, but it has pretty weighty implications. We can only do better because Christ gives us the power to do better. And we do better because we accept him. You'll know that all is forgiven. We're accepted by Christ. We're forgiven by Christ. And because of that, we can do better. We may fall to temptation today, but tomorrow we can do better. Finally, none of this works. Nothing gets better if you don't make a decision to do better. The last part of the song that we're going to talk about today says,
I noticed something different, and it started when I decided to do better.
God is always there for us. Christ always wants to help us. His grace is always sufficient, but it's not going to get better if we don't make a decision to do better. The artist, Jonathan McReynolds. The song, Better. That's what I hear.